Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Tuesday, March 10th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Water's opening up, ice is opening.
An out-of-breath Kevin Fox was literally running for his life Sunday afternoon on a huge ice floe off the shores of Owen Sound.
It was real stressful. Like guys were crying out there. They were calling loved ones, saying goodbye, and yeah, it wasn't good.
Fox was one of 23 anglers plucked from the ice and waters of Georgian Bay on Sunday after a 7-kilometer-wide chunk of lake ice broke away from shore near Balmy Beach.
When Kevin let me know that there was water behind me, it was maybe 2 feet wide. By the time I grabbed my stuff to go and run to it, it was the size of a football field. And it was just opening so fast, there was nothing we could do about it.
As we got close to the shore, we realized it had pulled off of that shore. So then we had to run along the crack the other side, and it had separated from there. So at that point, we knew, okay, we're stuck on this big chunk of ice.
As the waves and winds picked up, the 7-kilometer-wide chunk of ice they were stuck on was whittled down to less than 1 kilometer in size, Fox says, and was blown at least 2 kilometers offshore. Calls to 911 had already been made by the anglers, but they were hearing back that the changing conditions meant the Coast Guard boat couldn't reach them, and neither could the OPP helicopter.
I pretty much just counted my blessings and said to myself, like, this is the end right here.
But despair turned to relief in a matter of minutes as the first OPP and orange helicopter flew overhead, plucking 5 anglers who'd fallen through the ice from the frigid waters of Georgian Bay. Fox says the remaining 18 anglers were congregated on the biggest chunk of ice and were picked up 3 at a time and flown to solid ground.
Honestly, seeing those chopper guys arrive there and getting on that chopper and getting airlifted out, I couldn't have said, like, words couldn't even explain to me how thankful I was for that.
In retrospect, both Howe and Fox admit maybe they shouldn't have been out on the ice on Sunday, but they were, and they know full well that they owe their lives to the men and women who snatched them from that melting ice floe they found themselves cornered on.
Pretty much everybody thought that we were done for, and if it wasn't for those guys and having the rescue team and the equipment that they have, there would have been a lot of floating bodies yesterday.
Near Owen Sound, Scott Miller, CTV News.
I think they'd had about 20 cartridges.
Rabbi Deborah Landsberg points out where bullets pierced the windows of North York's Temple Emmanuel last Monday night.
Since this has happened over the course of the week, you can see how it's expanded.
20 shots fired, with twice as many fragments tearing through windows, walls, and wood.
Congregants are feeling hurt, vulnerable, angry.
The synagogue on Old Colony Road, one of 3 to be targeted by gunfire over the course of a week.
We were the first in a week, but we are not the first. And so the anger is that it just seems to escalate.
On Friday, shortly before midnight, the Beth Avraham Yosef Synagogue at Clark in York Hill and Thornhill also targeted. 8 bullets shattering the entry windows, their trajectory only halted by bulletproof film.
I know friends that left at 11:30 p.m. and as we all know, the shooting happened around 11:40 p.m. that night.
Johanna Joseph was there moments earlier at an event she'd organized for young professional students.
It shakes me up a lot. My friends are shaken up. What's going to happen next? You know, we already have tight security in synagogues. What more do we need?
Minutes after the Thornhill shooting, another attack. This time at Toronto's Sherei Shemayim Synagogue at Bathurst in Glencairn.
There has to be a lot more done. It has to be seen as unacceptable. Period.
Toronto and York Regional Police say they're currently working together to determine if the incidents are linked.
At this time, it would be premature to be able to say that this is the same people that are doing it.
But many say beyond coordinated policing efforts, all levels of government need to work together.
We need much stronger enforcement of the laws that do exist, and we need one coordinated approach. We need everyone to stand together and say, like, enough is enough.
We left the markers that the police had.
So far, the shootings have taken place when the synagogue sat largely empty.
It's hard to trust that there's not going to be another person who says, I don't want to hit a building. And that's, people are aware of that.
But many fear there could be an escalation of the violence, and instead of shattered glass, we'll be facing shattered lives. Police say they have increased patrols and surveillance near community centres, places of worship and schools. They're also collecting surveillance video and other evidence in an attempt to find the culprits. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
It's a situation Laval's mayor calls unfair and unacceptable.
The government is kind of trying to tax the victim. It's like if someone steals your wallet in the street, and when the police officer brings it back, said, now that you have a new revenue in your wallet, pay your taxes.
Stéphane Boyer says the Canada Revenue Agency wants the city to cough up $1 million. It's tax on the $7 million that was stolen by former Mayor Gilles Vaillancourt and held in a Swiss bank account. The funds were returned to Laval in 2016 when Vaillancourt pleaded guilty to charges of fraud, breach of trust, and conspiracy. Boyer says even though the money was stolen, the CRA sees that as revenue, and it went after Vaillancourt for back taxes. But he says Vaillancourt's lawyers argued the money is now with the city, so it's up to the city to pay the tax.
We would have not paid those taxes normally, and I don't feel like it's fair that we pay it now, because we are not supposed to pay taxes on money that was stolen from us at the beginning.
Many taxpayers we spoke to in Laval agree.
We pay enough taxes. We don't have to be responsible for their theft.
I'd say Gilles Vaillancourt should be the one paying that tax.
If he stole it, he should definitely be responsible for whatever happens.
Boyer is calling on Ottawa to make an exception. He says he has spoken with Federal Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne, but nothing has changed.
We believe that this is, such extraordinary case that we need to act, that we need a political intervention.
In 2016, the Quebec government gave Laval $1.8 million to pay Revenue Quebec the back taxes owed by Vaillancourt. Laval's mayor expects similar action from the federal government. In question period today, Champagne says he's working with the CRA to find a solution.
So hopefully we won't have to, go back in front of a judge to try to sort this out.
In the meantime, Boyer says the recuperated money is now in a special fund that helps nonprofit organizations in Laval's poorest neighborhoods. Angela McKenzie, CTV News.
Manitoba is just 71 cases away from topping the entire 2025 number for confirmed measles cases.
Now we have had quite significant transmission over the past year here in Manitoba.
Dr. Santina Lee is a medical officer of health with the province.
In the last couple of weeks, we are continuing to see some other transmissions, some of them related to, second generation of cases, and some that aren't necessarily tied back to that event that occurred at the end of January.
One of those exposures was a possible super spreader event at Ag Days in Brandon. Lee says we are now outside of the time period where new cases can be tied to that event. As of February 28th, there are 248 confirmed cases and 36 probable cases since the start of 2026. Last year's total was 29 probable cases and 319 confirmed cases. Don Bowdish, immunology professor at McMaster University, says Canada already had 2 infant deaths due to congenital measles. In Manitoba, there have been 2 cases of congenital measles and 12 in pregnant individuals since February 2025. Even if the baby survived the disease,
the science shows us that very few of those babies reach their full intellectual potential because the baby's brain needs to be focused on growing and developing, not fighting a deadly infection.
Doctors Manitoba President Dr. Nichelle Desilets says Manitoba's healthcare workers are taking precautions, but she says many are women of childbearing age, so the worry is still there.
We know that measles is of a particular concern when it comes to exposure during pregnancy. So I am hearing from people that they're, concerned about what patient assignments they get when they go to work.
Now, just for context on how measles is exploding, Manitoba only had 18 recorded cases from January 2000 to December 2024. Manitoba is #1 for measles cases in Canada, which lost its measles-free status in November 2025.
Harrison, how can people protect themselves?
Well, first and foremost, check your immunization record and consult with your healthcare provider. Desilets says if you are thinking of having a child or already in early stages of pregnancy, it is a good idea to chat with family members to ensure that the whole family is protected against measles. And now, children aged 6 to 12 months can get a total of 3 dosages of vaccines if they live in Southern Health, Interlake Eastern, or Prairie Mountain Health regions. All other children 12 months or older are eligible to get 2 doses.
All right, thanks for this, Harrison.
The conflict in the Middle East and threats from Iran's military has cut off shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, a region that produces and ships massive amounts of oil, liquefied natural gas, and fertilizer.
We could anticipate seeing increased costs for fertilizer. Fertilizer is one of our biggest input costs year to year, like every year. And so if we get say, for instance, if urea goes up 30% or in 1 year, that's a significant impact to our bottom line.
Kevin Bender has a farm near Bentley, Alberta. He says many farmers try to buy fertilizer and store it when there's a hint prices could go up.
We didn't know that this big spike was going to happen, but I'd say most years we see an increase in fertilizer prices coming into spring. So people will buy in the fall or through the winter and help minimize any cost increases that might occur.
Bender says farmers always find a way to manage, and it could mean planting crops that don't require the same fertilizer product. He also says rising diesel prices will have a minimal impact on his farm. At the Italian Centre shop in Edmonton, Teresa Spinelli is keeping a close eye on oil prices.
Like last time this happened, when there was a boom in Alberta with the oil prices going over $100 a barrel, we noticed that our freight company started charging a surcharge for the extra gas, and then we also noticed that our suppliers started charging more, especially if they're production and they're using oil and gas.
Costs the shop tries not to pass on to customers. Spinelli says it could be weeks before she knows how oil prices will impact her costs. Supply chain consultant Brent Willett believes the impacts on consumers will be very small compared to what they faced during COVID.
COVID was also about scarcity, not just pricing. We're not going to have a scarcity issue. What we could have is cost impacts along those supply chains. So going forward, organizations, specifically those in Canada, are much more resilient than they were 6 years ago.
Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
Frustration from drivers at the pumps.
It's terrible because I think it went up about 20%.
Hits much harder when you make your living on the road. Demolash Charant has been a cab driver for 35 years. He says he's never seen price swings quite like this.
We are controlled by the city, and we cannot jack up our price. Even if the gas price goes to $2, we still charge the same amount. So this is unbearable.
The average price of gas in Ottawa surging by more than 20 cents a litre in the past week.
We pay more now and make less because of the gas prices. It's impacting us a lot.
Usually, it will take about 14 to 15% of our fare goes to gas prices, in a van like this. But now it goes to 20 to 22, 25% of our income goes directly to gas price.
From the streets to the sky, fuel costs will continue to put pressure on the pocketbooks of many.
People should be wary that if they are planning travel and going for summer trips like that, tickets should be bought now before any price increase takes place.
The cost is one concern, possible cancellations another.
If this were to continue and the cost of fuel goes up and availability of fuel, there's a shortage, that could, in fact, change some airlines' decisions on regular daily flights.
War in the Middle East and tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route for about 1/5 of the world's oil supply, driving the wild price swings. Economists say shoppers can also expect inflation at the grocery store, with transportation costs on the rise. The oil price increase over the last 10 days representing a 1% hike to Canada's headline inflation.
At the end of the day, what you make just goes to gas.
As for public transit in Ottawa, OC Transpo's 2026 budget is based on diesel prices of $1.10 a litre. Right now, the average price of diesel in Ottawa is more than $1.50 a litre. But the City of Ottawa says it has a long-standing practice of hedging diesel fuel, which helps to reduce market risk and provide budget stability. Patricia.
All right, CTV's Austin Lee live for us tonight. Thank you.
Backstopped by religious leaders and in the shadow of attacks in Ontario, shots being fired at 3 synagogues in the Toronto area in the past week, the Premier announced new legislation Monday aimed at making places of worship safer in BC.
Everybody be able to pray and worship as they wish, and to do so without harassment and intimidation.
The bills extend the protections around schools brought in 2023. Protections that created a safe zone extending 20 meters beyond school properties. A response to protests and rallies opposing the NDP's sexual orientation and gender identity program.
We have made the decision to extend the protections under this law to 2028, recognizing that teachers and families and students attending school deserve to be able to attend school safely.
The new laws also expand those same protections to religious locations, including mosques, synagogues, temples, and churches, prohibiting, at risk of arrest or fine, certain behaviors in safe zones around such places of worship.
This includes physically obstructing access to that place of worship, attempting to persuade people not to go into the building, or purposefully disrupting activities occurring at this site.
Victoria Police said they increased patrols at Victoria's synagogues this weekend following the string of violence in Ontario. And while BC has not recently endured similar levels of violence, leaders in the Jewish community say there has been a spike in attacks.
There's no question the last 2 years there's been some concerning events, mostly nationally but also locally. Wants to ensure that people who go for house of worship, they will feel that they are not intimidated and they are not targets of hate.
And Rob joins us live from Victoria. Rob, if they're passed in the legislature, how long are these laws expected to stay in place?
Well, Mei Jung, as I mentioned, in relation to schools, that's been extended by 2 years. They were set to sunset right about now, so those will stay in place now until 2028 if they pass. And in relation to places of worship, that legislation would be in place until 2030. The government also noted today that in order for a place of worship to be subject to those laws, they'd have to erect a sign outside of the facility indicating as such. Mei Jung.
Rob Buffum reporting live tonight from Victoria.
It's time to tighten those taps again. The city and surrounding areas are under stage 4 water restrictions, meaning no outdoor water use and a reduction in indoor use.
That means trying to limit your showers to no more than 3 minutes, flushing only when necessary, and running your dishwasher or washing machine only when they're full.
The Bears Paw feeder main that carries 60% of Calgary's water has been shut off for repairs over the next 4 weeks, leaving the Glenmore treatment plant running at max capacity to make up some of the lost water production. The goal is to keep water use below 500 million litres a day, and most Calgarians have heard the message this time around.
So I was aware of it, yeah. They left pamphlets on all our doors, and then we're just trying to stick to it.
They had notices up on our place about the water restrictions and what to do, and we're just trying to save water, follow what they're suggesting.
To keep people informed and communication lines open, the city now has an office inside the Bowness Community Association.
This center is here to support the community through a challenging period. Our team here is available to listen, answer questions, and help connect people to services and supports they might need during this construction. We're open from 9 to 5 on Mondays and Wednesdays, and from 10 to 7 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And everyone is welcome.
The reinforcements will happen along the 9 sections of the pipe identified as the most vulnerable, 6 along 16th Avenue and 3 in the Point McKay Park area. They will support the feeder main until a new parallel steel pipe is completed by December and can take over service. People can expect another round of water restrictions in the fall for that. Jacqueline Wilson, CTV News, Calgary.
The motion to fluoridate Regina's water supply was originally passed here at City Hall back in 2021 and was scheduled to be fully implemented this year, but that has now been pushed back to mid-2027. The Buffalo Pound Water Treatment Plant says over 95% of the major work on the plant's renewal project has been completed, with some small commissioning and deficiency work remaining. But the general contractor for that project is still on site, and the plant says they did not want the current contractor to still be there when the fluoridation project contractor begins their work to avoid conflict. The plant says the original plan was for the process of implementing fluoride into the water supply to begin at the midway point of last year, but an error on the part of the renewal project contractor has pushed the timeline back.
And
unfortunately, after they were done the design work, I guess they found that the chemical building and some of the placement of equipment and how they ran pipes and electrical works were not as designed, which created a bunch of rework.
Johnson says the contractor that does come in to complete the fluoridation project will require some time to manufacture the specialized equipment needed for the process and customize it for the space provided by the treatment plant. Johnson anticipates that the contractor who wins the bid for the fluoridation project will begin work this summer, and that citizens of Regina can expect the plant to be producing fluoridated water by the summer of 2027. Jacob Carr, CTV News, Regina.
More traffic restrictions on the University Bridge causing challenges for motorists in our city. This was Monday morning. Firefighters were called to the bridge Sunday afternoon because of smoke rising from underneath the structure. City officials tell us it's human-caused and resulted in damage to a sewer line.
And if anybody put plastic near on a stove element, it doesn't take a lot of heat to start deforming plastic, and then once that starts to happen, it can fairly quickly get out of control.
But an investigation is still underway to determine exactly how it started and if it was intentional or accidental. The archways under the bridge are hard to access by design, but have become a common place for encampments offering shelter from the elements.
We don't really have any way of preventing someone. Where there's a will, there's a way is certainly what we're seeing. We've done our best. There's barbed wire on the tops of the fence.
He adds the area has to be accessible for any repairs or for emergency crews to access. This is not the first incident like this to cause issues for bridge traffic here. In June of 2023, a major fire had the bridge closed down to traffic completely for a day. Then in January of 2025, another fire under the bridge, also the result of an encampment. This one spread into the bridge's internal structure and also melted a sanitary sewer line. Now, with the latest bridge damage, officials have since inspected it and say there's no structural damage. Part of the westbound lane is blocked off with traffic asked to zipper merge. The north pedestrian walkway is also closed while crews work in the area. The south walkway is open. That's expected to last this week. Meanwhile, on the south side of the city, traffic also seeing delays as repairs continue after an overpass was damaged when a truck hit the structure. Repairs are being arranged currently, but no timeline on reopening all lanes of traffic has been set. Carla Shinkruk, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Across the Grand River watershed, fast-moving water and localized flooding. This a look at the Grand River in Conestoga, with a similar scene not far away in West Montrose. The Grand River Conservation Authority placing a number of communities under a flood watch. They say after the winter we just had, this is to be expected.
We are in a very dynamic situation. After a relatively dry summer and fall, we've had a very cold and snowy winter. In some parts of the watershed, specifically in north, we saw snow levels and snow water equivalent levels that had not been seen since 70s. We approached and sometimes exceeded what we had on record.
In Ayr, where just last week a fire destroyed a building in the heart of downtown, today flooding hitting the exact same area.
It's amazing. The water banks are flooded, but holy moly, you just don't realize it until you're standing and looking at it. Like it's way over there where those homes are. That's amazing.
Ted and Louise are new to Ayr and were shocked by the high water level. Those who have been in the community for longer have seen several floods of this magnitude or worse.
Most of the people we spoke to, yes, this is not the first time they've been through level 2 or level 3. But we did find some people, their tenants and renting, that this is the first time they've been through it, which is why we go out and we do the door-to-door.
With water levels peaking early this afternoon, the North Dumfries fire chief says it appears the worst is over.
Tannery Street behind us will come close at a level 1, and level 2 is the water's up to the back of these buildings, and then level 3 is that next one. So we are just under level 3 when the Nith crested.
And in a community that just faced a brutal fire and floods.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but the community will make it happen. I'm sure of that.
The receding waters are welcome news. Jeff Pickle, CTV News.